Jackie Stewart has been a real-life flying Scotsman all his adult life. The dyslexic boy who struggled at school became the best Grand Prix driver of his generation. Now he may be off the track and not making as many headlines as he did as a 3-time world motor racing champion, but these days his life as a businessman is just as hectic. It's also just as successful. Stewart was an ice-cold, precise and brilliant operator who resented the notion that racing drivers had to be daredevil mavericks who willingly flirted with death and said to hell with safety. His talent was obvious to the likes of Ken Tyrrell and Damon Hill's father Graham. Jackie and his wife Helen tasted the victory champagne in 27 out of his 99 races. But like all the other drivers, he was hooked on a cocktail far more powerful, the adrenaline of race days.
Give him not... Oi! Oi! Give him not past the car that's going into the pit.
No, you don't understand. If there is a car in front of you,
Yeah.
which is slower than you are, Mr. Stewart, then you would like to pass it.
Yeah.
Isn't that so?
As with any big money sport, secrecy and gamesmanship were all part of the plot.
You say first round the hairpin, first on the left, the hairpin. And then second? First for the left, the right one, under the...
Everybody's listening. Helmet. Oh, my secret's helmet.
Racing is a peculiar sport-business. A young racing driver has got to be a great assortment of skills. Not only does he have to drive a racing car very well or a go-kart very well, he's got to be a good PR person. He's got to be able to communicate with the fans and make them like him. He's got to be a good media communicator, to be able to speak to the giants of the newspaper world or the magazine world, whether it's the aficionado magazines or whether it's the other ones. He's got to be a politician because he's got to communicate with the governing body of the sport if it's in safety matters or technical matters. He's got to be motivating people because he's got to get his mechanic and engineer and tyre supplier and engine man and transmission man to produce better results for him than for his competitors. He's also got to present himself correctly. He's got to be able to have some skills in interviewing. All of those things service his sponsorship. Then he's got to be a marketeer because he's got to go out and sell sponsorship to allow him in the formative years of his career to gain access to these new classes of racing that he's got to climb in order to get to the rainbow end. And he may well be dealing with governments in some cases. Multiple skills.
Jackie Stewart is almost a non-stop one-man industry with offices in Geneva and London. Over the years, he's had contracts with big firms like Ford, Elf and Moët, and commentated for ABC television in America. And that's to name but a few of the irons he's had in the fire. Visit Jackie's magnificent home in Switzerland, and you're never far from a fax or a phone. There's always some deal cooking.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Tarquini is good, and then we could maybe put Alessi or Berger into the other Alfa Romeo. I thought I had 5 years, and I thought everybody would forget Jackie Stewart after 5 years. The thing was that those companies used me very positively, and used me in television commercials all around the world, and I then, because of that, got further contracts with more television commercials or more print commercials or adverts, and people became to know Jackie Stewart better outside of a racing car than inside of a racing car.
Jackie Stewart, the world champion race driver, tests the new Ford Cortina. On a twisting mountain bend, he tries Cortina's new wide track handling, the new suspension, the responsive rack and pinion steering. Jackie agrees the new Cortina has more car between the wheels. Now Jackie Stewart and the Stewart family try the new Ford Taunus. Mrs. Stewart likes the quiet ride, the interior roominess. Jackie appreciates the crisp, compact exterior, the new overhead cam engine. They all agree the new Ford Taunus is a most generous car.
Jackie Stewart loves being at home with his family, but his work is an obsession and a passion. His mind never stops.
Hello. I don't see myself as a workaholic. I see myself consumed by my life today and trying to do the best possible thing for it. And my head seems to run all the time. So I find it very difficult not to go for the phone. I mean, where I lie by the pool, I have two phones. And they're not there just for me to answer the phones, they're there for me to make calls. My mind being actively working, in fact, drives me to constantly work and follow things up, because I hate not doing things correctly. I'm a stickler for attention to detail. I hate if I've said to somebody, I'll get back to you by Wednesday afternoon, and I haven't done so. I don't care how I do it, where I am, I have to do it.
The airport is almost a second home. He flies the Atlantic maybe 40 times a year.
There I work 19 hours usually per day, because that's a tough program. I start at 5:30 in the morning, and I usually get involved with having to do cocktails or dinners at night, because I've got to see certain people. And I need to see them, and they may be chief executive officers. And their time is very difficult to slot, so we may have to do it after hours type of thing. So I work long hours, but I don't find that wrong. I mean, I enjoy what I do. I'm not doing it for the reward necessarily. I'm doing it for the reward, but it's a reward of stimulation, not necessarily monetary. I travel around about 400,000 miles a year by air. I don't drive very much. I'm a below average motorist, mileage-wise, but I travel a lot. Most of my friends are considerably more successful or richer than I am, and they don't need to work. But I admire people who want to achieve and want to do things for other people's benefit apart from their own. I mean, why would Sir Evelyn Rothschild have to work? But he works jolly hard and conscientiously, because he gets personal satisfaction out of doing something that is done properly well and to benefit not only himself but many others.
This is Detroit, the Motor City. Jackie's been test driving Ford cars here for 30 years. But can you ever really replace the speed and thrill of the Grand Prix?
You can, and I have, and I haven't. Because I get as much stimulation today out of what I'm doing in the business world, and as big a challenge as I ever had in motor racing. It's certainly more complicated, it's certainly more demanding,
Okay, Dan, we're ready to
and
roll.
it is certainly every bit as challenging. What it will never be, you can never get the sheer ultimate exhilaration.
It's in tests like these that Jackie Stewart helps to improve the Fords that go on sale in your local showroom.
He's both looking at us from a perfectionist viewpoint, from a ex-motor racing viewpoint, from an industrial viewpoint, from a design viewpoint. So I see his role as multi-dimensional in many ways, as a conscious, as a product expert, as a vehicle expert, as a customer input, as an internationalist. I mean, you could just go on and on.
End of lap 1, beginning of lap 2 at 35.
It's a high-tech operation, and Jackie Stewart is obviously a key part of the team.
I think the speedometer needs to be moved a little bit more towards centre track, more to the left of the IP, as a matter of fact. I think it's too much of an eye movement to the right.
Jackie not only tends to pick up extremely subtle differences or changes or deterioration in vehicle attributes, but has this uncanny ability to link it back to the root cause. It is a pleasure, but at sometimes you get frustrated. You get frustrated because he's so obviously right, and it was so clear that you ask yourself, well, why didn't the rest of the organization see this? Why did this slip through so many processes and ranks within the engineering and development community?
This is an exciting time of my life, because I can in fact achieve more today than I ever achieved as a racing driver in profound ways. And I'm at the best years of my life for that, because I'm not so young that people are writing me off as, well, he doesn't know enough. He's not old enough to know any better. I'm now 55 years of age. I'm still in good physical condition and mentally alert. I've lived a lot, I've seen a lot, I've experienced a lot. And now in business, I've got the ability to bring certain things together.
Take a look at the number plate, 1JYS. Chauffeur driven by Jerry Webb, and alongside him in the front seat, Jackie Stewart. working. Of course.
We've got this phone here which goes off, and then he's back on talking to somebody on that phone. Then this one goes off again, and then he says, oh God, I've got to make another call. I've just remembered. So he's back on that one. Now I'm talking about, we're probably taking 45 minutes to get from Heathrow to the Grosvenor. And he's on that phone, this one's going on. I mean, I'm answering this one, he's on that one. We're back and forward all the way through. When we get to the Grosvenor, I find that, you know, I've completely forgotten what I was going to tell him. And then, when we get into the Grosvenor, I do tell him what I'm going to tell him. And he says, why the hell didn't you tell me that when we were up at the airport? And of course, I mean, how can I tell him if he's on the phone?
Jackie is still such a celebrity and valued customer that he always has a suite at the Grosvenor House Hotel on trips to London. The same shoeshine man is always there to greet him. And with the same precision of mind that made him such a great driver, Jackie casually calculates that he spends an average 5.2 nights per week in hotels. Not 5 or 6, but 5.2. Another of Jackie Stewart's regular haunts is Gleneagles in his native Scotland. Jackie has an excellent business relationship with the owners and his own shooting school on the site. He used to be a crack clay pigeon shooter himself. Although he's lived abroad for 26 years now, Jackie is still fiercely proud of his Scottish heritage. He's back home here, a Scot as famous as Robbie Burns, Logie Baird, Robert Louis Stevenson and Sean Connery, even more than 20 years since his retirement.
Drive the Gleneagles, we're driving CW170.
On this occasion, Jackie is meeting some top Ford people who've travelled over from Germany for more testing. Ideal conditions these amid the twisting, turning Highland roads.
Coming back to Scotland is always such a great pleasure. Just the scenery alone, you know, we've created this drive in Scotland, not because it's homeland for me, but because the roads are very suitable for the disciplines that we want to address in any vehicle and its dynamics. Today has been lovely and very suitable for testing. It's a serious test because we're making some very big decisions on our future product. And we've got some of the best engineers that the Ford Motor Company has to come along and do that work with me. So this is not a lightweight day, it's a very serious day.
Just as with everything in Jackie's business life, he's meticulous, energetic and thorough.
An enormous difference for a cost that, for management, normally the attitude would be, that's ridiculous, we can't afford that. But if the integrity of the engineering, going back to that, is going to be affected by very good hydraulic bushes, then that's the very core of your dynamic movement. So if we can get that right, I mean, that's going to help. And it really doesn't matter whether you're in a small car, a medium size or a large car. If the foundations aren't right, we're not going to get the end result.
So this is the hectic business life that's taken over from the excitement of the Grand Prix circus in Jackie Stewart's life. There was a brief period when Jackie was very distressed and mixed up about his decision to retire. So much so that he bared his soul to an Anglican priest. But after that meeting, he was clear in his mind that he'd done the right thing.
Since I retired, I've had not one moment of withdrawal symptoms, not one moment of regret, not one itch to get back in the car, not one desire of temptation, money or anything else.
You're Barclaycard obsessed, aren't you, Boff?
No, sir.
Name another credit card.
Barclaycard, MasterCard.
To apply, call free 0800 007 007.
A posh car pulls up at Gleneagles. Out steps Jackie Stewart with Hollywood star Gene Hackman. Well, Jackie moves these days in high circles alongside the rich and famous.
Hello.
Welcome.
How are you doing?
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you for the weather.
And in a way he wouldn't want to advertise, he does his share for charity.
Look at that fella over there. There you are. There he is. See the funny fella with the camera? David. There he is. Look at that one there. Somebody good. There you go. Right. Beep, beep.
Princess Anne has been a personal friend ever since they met at a TV Sports Personality of the Year bash in 1971. And the family scrapbooks are full of famous faces: Peter Ustinov, Audrey Hepburn, and members of royal families from all over the world. It sounds like a name-dropping exercise, but it isn't. He likes them, they like him.
Because I've been a racing driver and they like motorsport or they like sport or whatever, and because of that I've been privileged to become friends with some people who I admire very much, some great achievers, others, in the case of royal families, who in their own experience of life are extraordinary people. And to be privileged to share some of their life is something that I consider to be something I would not like to have missed. It's been a wonderful experience. I've always enjoyed being with people more successful than I, because that way you're always learning something.
One of Jackie's closest friends is actor Sean Connery.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Erin District Roundtable 4th Legends Challenge. The first game representing Team A, Mr. Sean Connery.
I, for example, enjoy Sean Connery, because Sean is an honest man. He's a Scotsman without any Hollywood glitz. Sean's a real man, and I enjoy real men. Sean is one of my best friends, one of my favourite friends.
Of course, Sean Connery drove a few weird and wonderful machines in his James Bond days, but they couldn't prepare him for a drive with Jackie Stewart.
Jackie took us round with a camera, the Ariflex in the back, and Jackie and I in the front. And we're only doing, 100 or something, but these were consoles, Ford console. And to go round the track there, I mean, I've never been so frightened in my life, and you could hear it in the track. And when I got out the car, he was explaining it to me about the G factor and the drift and going in and how you accelerate through the corners and everything. And I got out and I was virtually trembling. I said, never get me in one of these bloody things again.
Not all Jackie's friends are superstars, though. He still keeps in touch with school pal John Lindsay.
We don't all have to be rich and famous. I mean, one of the best friends I have, John Lindsay from Dumbarton, is the person that, again, I think it's therapy for me to go back to see John, because we spend quite a lot of time together because he likes motor racing and he comes with me. And it's like turning the clock back from when we were at school. I mean, John hasn't changed and neither have I.
Oh, great shot. Lovely ball. He's still the same guy as he was when he was at school. At school, he made me look very clever and bright. But when we left school, it's made me look quite pedestrian, having achieved what he's achieved. If half that success had happened to me, I think I'd be a different guy, but he's still the same guy as he was when he was at school.
In his youth, Jackie combined his love of motor racing with clay pigeon shooting. In fact, he nearly made Britain's Olympic team in 1960. He was a crack shot and a talented young driver, but still an unknown on the track. His grandfather was a gamekeeper, and Jackie still keeps up his connection and love of the sport via his school at Glen Eagles. Who knows what might have happened if he'd won that Olympic place at clay pigeon shooting? The Jackie Stewart story could have taken an entirely different course.
I never thought that I would ever be able to drive a racing car, and that's why I suppose I started my shooting. Because my clay pigeon shooting came, I think I was about 14 and a half when I first won my first event in clay pigeon shooting.
You want me to stand a little further back?
Jackie's Glen Eagles School is one of the most successful in the world. He's a frequent visitor, particularly for the celebrity events that are a feature of the shooting calendar. And the old skills are clearly still there.
Oh.
Yep, nice pass.
That was the sport that I could see myself being good at, and I had never been good at anything in my life. I was reserved for the 1960 Olympics in Rome, which was very disappointing. On my 21st birthday, I was firmly in the field, and the last selection shoot took place. I lost my position in the two-man team by one target. Nothing in my life was as disappointing as not carrying the 5 rings on a blazer to be in the Olympics. I wasn't the British team, it was a 4-man team, but that was not the same as going to the Olympics. So not to go to Rome was really a big factor in my life.
Let me ask you, if you had have gone to Rome in the clay pigeon shooting, would you still have become a famous motor racing driver?
I don't know. I think I would, because I think at the end of the day the magnet was there for motorsport. I love driving cars. I've always liked cars.
Back at Glen Eagles, the shooting school is open every single day of the year, and it attracts 12,000 visitors.
It really is his first love. I mean, his grandfather was a gamekeeper, and he just loves the sport, you know, as a sport, as clay targets. You know, so he's very actively involved. It's good to have him up here, and when he comes up and shows us how to shoot some of those clays.
The shooting is fun, but when the smoke has cleared, it's yet another enterprise in the busy, busy, busy life of this shrewd and meticulous man.
We were up at Glen Eagles once, and he was looking around, and he just, I don't think anybody else had ever noticed it. I mean, they were just wandering around looking at the shooting school. You know, we've got a shooting school. He's walking around, he's picking the weeds around the corner as you go around by the door. There was a few weeds growing, he's pulling them out. I was thinking the other day, you know, we ought to get the plate taken off this car and put ATD1 on it. You know, so we got the whole thing in one. Attention to detail.
You're a perfectionist, aren't you?
I like to try and be a perfectionist, and that's your biggest challenge, because you can, it's like when driving a racing car, my competitors were easy because they made mistakes. I was a bigger challenge because it was my desire not to make mistakes, and I was my biggest critic. So it was more challenging for me to compete against myself, to avoid making those mistakes, than it was competing against the competition. Because in the end, that wasn't much fun.
Jackie Stewart hardly has time these days to think back to the days when he was motor racing to glory in the 60s and 70s. He's a man totally fulfilled by his new existence.
I'm fully consumed by what I'm doing just now, and that's as exciting a time as I've ever spent in my whole life. I love it. I adore my life. And I'm fulfilled, my cup's full and running over. But I know there's more to do, and I know that's going to be exciting, and I hope I'm going to spend a little more time appreciating some of the things that my family have and that I can share with them. I don't know what they all are.
It's been an incredible journey, a little boy tortured by dyslexia who became champion of the whole world.